Thank you very much for joining us. Really delighted to have with us today Marco Sormani, managing partner at Varenne Capital Partners based in Paris. Marco, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the program, and really we want to find out from you where in today's markets you're seeing value. Of course, you have a global approach, very unconstrained in what you look at to find good investment opportunities globally. Give us a sense of the challenge of finding value today. The markets have had quite a bit of a run-up over the last few years. Where do you find pockets of opportunity, interesting things to do?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So today, as you are saying, the market has a quite important growth in the last couple of years, but we have a very concentrated portfolio approach that allows us to concentrate on a few opportunities we can find globally. So we have a very process-driven approach with a quantitative approach for the first phase of our screening. So we are screening all around the world in order to find some few opportunities in which we can invest to generate value for our portfolios and our investors.
And what would you say then is, can you give us some examples of interesting opportunities today where you are finding the market is mispricing something and gives you the opportunity to exploit it profitably as an investor?
Yeah, so recently we screened in detail some markets like still developed market, but in some countries that are not only Europe or US, like Hong Kong. So we did a very interesting investment in Magic Holdings, for example. It's a leading facial mask company in China, cosmetic facial masks. So they innovate completely in the market. They took a dominant position in the mass market for facial masks. So creating a real excellent company. And very recently, L'Oreal, the French beauty leading company, acquired the company. So it was a very good investment for us. So how we did this investment, so it came out from our screening, from our quantitative screening. It was a very, very cash-rich company. So this is very important for us. We are always looking for companies with a strong competitive advantage. That is the case for Magic Holdings, with excellent teams. So in that example, Magic Holdings was managed by the 3 co-founders. So people very committed to the company with a very good background in cosmetics and biopharmaceuticals, both from a business perspective and also from a technical and the production point of view. So together with a long-term interesting prospect, that is the case for facial masks, is a booming market, especially in Asia. Asian people are more and more urbanized, more and more with higher disposable income, and they more and more interested also in their look and their image. So cosmetics products are globally as a category going very well, and in particular facial masks is more a niche market in which Magic Holdings develop a strong franchise, innovating a lot with a very broad product base with around 170 references. So it was a huge range of products that can offer to the customers, and also very strong costing power. Costing power is another element we look at when we do our investment, our selection. It's very important for us. Because of their size, we have a production capacity very, very important of around 300 million facial masks per year. So it's a real leader also in terms of cost per unit, That is the factor we look at in our analysis to evaluate as a long-term competitive advantage. So putting together all the system and different elements, we came into a conclusion that it was a very good investment for us, together with the cash position of the company. When we acquired the company, this company has around 1/3 of the market cap in cash. So in that case, we have a very huge cash position, and we took advantage also of that in the evaluation. So today we can find some mispriced and some good companies around the world. So another example of a very recent investment we have done is Novo Nordisk company. Novo Nordisk is a leading diabetes care company, so focusing mainly in insulin and the GLP-1 treatments. So insulin and GLP-1s are both hormones, so very complex molecules, but very difficult to copy. It's not like simple chemical structure that can be copied by generic drugs. It's not the case for insulin and for GLP-1 peptides. So they have a very good, very strong franchise built in many years. And today Novo Nordisk is the world leader in insulin, with around a 50% market share worldwide in volumes. So what we do when we look at a company like Novo Nordisk, first of all, we look at the financial structure. In their case, it's a very solid financial structure with a strong cash position, as was the case for the previous mentioned company, Magic Holdings. So it's a company that has a real competitive advantage in terms both of costing power and pricing power. If we take the costing power, so they have a main producer in the world of insulin. So I visited their production facilities in Denmark. So they produce mainly in one single site half of the insulin produced all over the world. So you can imagine the huge economy of scales they can have. So they produce in this site the insulins under a crystal form, and then they send the crystals around the world in the different filling and manufacturing facilities. They have mainly 6 big manufacturing facilities around the world, but all the insulins is produced in Denmark, mainly in one single site, giving them a huge competitive advantage in terms of cost of production. Also, the second phase is very important, so the filling and finally the injection device they provide to the client is another very significant element for their competitive advantage. So the injection devices are very difficult to create, to produce too. So they have a patented injection devices, mainly pens. So nowadays it's very easy to get some insulins through a pens, but it's really easier than the previous technique. And they have about 300 people working in R&D only on the injection devices and pens. So we have a very huge team working on that, giving them a strong competitive advantage also in the injection device area to create the final product for the clients that is more and more easy to use, more and more also efficient, and allowing patients to have quite a normal life, quite a normal day-to-day life. So this concerning costing power. In terms of pricing power, Novo Nordisk has a quite important pricing power, especially for the new insulins. So if we consider human insulin, they have a very strong position also in human insulin, but if you consider the new type of insulins, the analog insulins, thanks to their innovation and patented new type of insulins, they can get the pricing power, especially in the markets that are ready to pay for new products and for research, like the US. So, and in that case, their price point is really higher. It's the same also for the GLP-1 molecules. So for GLP-1s, thanks to, for example, we have a product, Victoza, that is very, very strong, market share above 60% nowadays. It's a new class of medicines with good prices, very good effects on patients that were in a earlier phase of their illness. But at the end, so until now, and we think also in the future, all the patients with diabetes need treatment with insulin. That makes the market very important for Novo Nordisk, in which they have a very strong competitive position. So if we consider the market, the main players in the market, we have Novo Nordisk, and then we have two other players that are Sanofi and Eli Lilly. So these three players dominate completely the insulin markets, and it's very difficult to get into this market because of the entry barrier, the huge investments necessary to produce insulin in an effective and competitive way. So, and also because to copy some old molecules, for example, human insulin, normal human insulin is no more under patent, but also to copy human insulin is very difficult. So we are not talking about simple chemical medicines, but very complex peptide, protein hormones that is very difficult to copy and to get the approval by the FDA or the European Medical Agency. So when you consider this type of medicines, the approval is not only on the molecule in itself, but also on the production process. So, and this gives also a higher entry barrier, so to defend the market. And if we consider the competition between these three players, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi, they really don't have so much interest in entering in a price war. They prefer to innovate and to continue to innovation, to increase prices, and to offer better products to their clients, to the patients. Also take into consideration that the cost of these products is quite low, and the cost of alternative treatment, if a patient is not well treated with insulin or other diabetic treatment, is very, very, very important. You know, for a patient with diabetes, the main cost is the inpatient hospital. So if a patient needs to go to the hospital, the cost will be huge. And if you consider just the treatment for insulin, it's insulin also all the other diabetes-specific treatments. It's about 12% of the overall cost to treat a patient with diabetes, and the consequences of not a good treatment are huge in terms of cost. You can get very serious sickness if your diabetes is not well managed. In terms of kidney failures, you can lose an eye, or you can have quite important problems. Also, you can risk your life. You know, with big peaks in the crisis, with hyperglycemic level, and at the opposite, hypoglycemic levels. So overall, is a market in which also the social security system have an interest in paying this treatment, in paying insulin for the patients, because the alternative is really more expensive also for the social security and the overall health system. So then if we consider the third factor we take into account when we do our investment is the long-term perspectives. So in that case, you may know that so unfortunately diabetes is increasing illness. If you consider just a few years ago, in the 1980, there was about 180 million patients, and nowadays is more than the double than that. And also the statistics for the next years are not good, and the schedule more or less to double the number of patients with diabetes. It could reach around 580 million in 2030. So a huge increase in the number of patients with this illness. Another factor is that most of these patients nowadays doesn't get any treatment for diabetes. So consider that just 50% of them get diagnosed with diabetes, and just 50% of that, so 25%, get any treatment for diabetes. If you consider people who stabilize, have a good treatment, considered to have a good treatment for diabetes, just 6% of the overall number of patients. So if you could take together all these elements, so increasing number of diabetes patients, that's more and more people who want and would like to have a appropriate treatment for diabetes. So the increase in the market is quite significant, and we think Novo Nordisk is the leading company to take advantage on that, thanks to their focused approach, a strategy that they have developed in many years, and also thanks to a very good management team. This is the other element we consider when we invest in a company. So the strategy and the track record of the team that nowadays manage Novo Nordisk is excellent. So these people has been at the head of the company for more than 10 years. So we have a proven track record with very good results for all shareholders. This is very important for us, not just for the main shareholder, the foundation, or for the management, but for all the shareholders, including minority shareholders. So the company has acquired a quite significant number of shares every year. So, and you can see a real reduction in the number of shares, systematic reduction in the number of shares year on year. So this is very important for us, that can allow to increase in a significant way the earning per shares, so, and the value for the investors. So if you consider the last 10 years, this company has reduced the number of shares, so it's about 22% in 10 years. So it's a good rate, considering this is net of all stock option or whatever, all other dilutive instruments. So also including all that, the company has really reduced the number of shares during the years, so creating a very good value for all investors. And also with a distribution of dividends, so thanks to a very good cash generating business during all this year, and then we consider that will continue also in the future, and the management that I met in Denmark so confirmed me that this strategy will continue, and also the number of shares will be continue to be reduced. So these are examples of our last recent investments that we consider can create good value for investors, but this requires very in-depth analysis. For example, if we consider Novo Nordisk, I've been to visit their production facilities. I have discussed with all the main managers in the company, also with some more junior people. So I conducted interviews with hospitals, with medical doctors, to know their point of view concerning the company and their competitors, concerning potential alternative products. So this, all this work is done internally. It's in-house research-driven company, Varane Capital Partners. We created years ago, and we continue to apply this process and this approach in order to create value for our investors. Thank you.
Can I just go back to Novo Nordisk,
Yeah.
and if you could help us understand, it's interesting, it seems to me, if I understood it correctly, that when it comes to insulin, so the product of Novo Nordisk is, you mentioned some patented insulin, the new insulins, but then it seems that insulin has been out there for a long time. So would it be wrong to say that the competitive advantage is based on a patent here overall? What is really when it comes to the moat of Novo Nordisk, can you just help me understand that it's not related to a patent, right? It's just related to other things.
Thank you for your question. It's very interesting because in the case of Novo Nordisk, it's not just patent-driven. It's very important competitive advantage. So if we consider, for example, human insulin, Novo Nordisk, being the cost leader, can earn all the tender, for example, in some underdeveloped country, the governments do huge national tender to buy human insulin. Take, for example, Brazil. So Brazil, Novo Nordisk, always earning the tender. So for human insulin, because it is a cost leader, so it can sell for a very limited price human insulin, so it's no more under patent, but because of their competitive advantage in terms of cost and power, they can get the best price, so they can keep also this market that is very big in size and low in price. Also for this segment, they're very competitive and they keep it. And in that way, they keep also out of the market other smaller players that maybe starting from human insulin could go up in the future to some more complex products. But since Novo Nordisk keep them out of the market, it's very difficult to develop in the overall insulin market. So, but if we take, for example, Brazil, so Novo Nordisk is at the same time selling human insulin to the government at a quite low price, thanks to this costing power, and doing also profit on that. This is very important to say. They're not dumping, and because of their size, they get a profit also on human insulin. But at the same time, they can sell, as I was saying, human insulin to the governments, and at the same time to many private hospitals, more complex products like GLP-1 or analog insulins at a very good, very high pricing point. So their strategy is to have a complete range of products from the completely out of patent, old, in some way, old products, but also for this product they can guarantee very good quality, very good traceability, very good performance for the patients, to the more innovative, more new drugs with an higher pricing point. So in that case, they can control the market. That is very interesting for us, So they are not alone in doing that. They are the leader in that, but also you consider Sanofi and Eli Lilly. There are no other companies that are strong in this segment. Also for GLP-1, some new molecules is the same. They are completely a dominant player. So we have more than 60% market share today. We consider maybe in the future this market share can go down a bit. And since the market also for this new innovative product is growing in a very important way, the overall market, the market for them, is still increasing in a very significant way for the next years. Thank you.
So, if I understand it correctly, the advantage that Novo Nordisk has is really in the scale of its operation. On the one hand, if I'm, let's say, a generic company or a pharmaceutical business that's looking to get into the insulin market, my barrier would be, first of all, even though I can have the formula, there is no patent on the insulin. It
depends on which insulins. A new insulin, analog insulin, you have also patents, are patenting products, and And all the time they invest quite a lot in research to create new insulins with new patents to protect, but to protect from competitor. But it's not just that. Even if you consider a product completely out of patent like human insulin, it's very difficult to get into the market for a new player because of the size they have now. This company has nowadays 50% of the world market, but they have a huge economy of scale in the production. So this is very defendable for us for mid, long term in terms of strong competitive advantage, a barrier to enter for players. So another element is not just in the production in insulin itself, but the injection devices. So you consider that the patient to get insulin get the injection by themselves. So they want very good quality injection devices, and also in that respect, Novo Nordisk has a very strong competitive advantage together with Eli Lilly and Sanofi for the injection devices. So if you are a new player in the market, you need not only to have a biosimilar insulin that is good quality, that has to be approved by the FDA, by the European Medical Agency and the other authorities, what is very difficult also because you need to approve all the process, all your suppliers. You need to have a track record on that. But also you need to be very competitive in the production of the injection devices. And also for that, Novo Nordisk has a huge competitive advantage because of this size, because of the knowledge they have in the injection device production and R&D. As I mentioned before, they have just on that 300 people, 300 scientists working on R&D on injection devices. So plus all the people working in the production, in engineering. So that creates, in our opinion, and we think after very in-depth analysis that this opinion is proved by the fact they have a huge, very significant moat to protect their business in the future.
In that context of the delivery device, there are companies out there. I'm thinking of Mankind that I think is trying to develop an inhalable delivery version for insulin. Do you see that as a risk, and to what degree?
Yeah, concerning what you mentioned, at the time being, it's not a significant risk. Also, they work on different type of projects. Also, Novo Nordisk is working even on a oral insulin. This should be a huge revolution if they're able to get to that. But in that case, since we are still talking about insulin, so you need first to produce the insulin. You need first to have the competitive advantage the production of insulin. Then it's very difficult to get oral insulin. So because if you take now normal insulin today, so the absorption by your body will be extremely low. Also because negative consequences can be also quite important, nowadays. But so now they are just in phase 1, studying oral insulin. Even in the past, so other companies also themselves have tried to get to oral insulin. That should be the huge revolution, but I think we will need to wait maybe 8-10 years, in their opinion, before to get to that. And also in that respect, Novo Nordisk is the leading company in the research in oral insulin. So for concerning inhalation of insulin, so there work quite a lot also on that, but it's not proven as good quality, as safe for patients compared to the current pens injection devices they sell to their clients.
What would you say then is the biggest business risk? What's on your mind when thinking about, leaving aside the share price, just thinking about the risks to the business? What worries you the most, or what is the thing that you really are monitoring to make sure your thesis stays intact over time?
Yeah, so there are two main risks for this business. One is, so in a case a huge economic crisis, so the social security system cannot pay anymore, and also private clients cannot afford anymore. But finally, we did quite in-depth analysis about that. But since the unit cost and also the month cost of insulin is not so high, even for the new analog insulin, is honestly not so high. So in that case, we don't see this as a huge risk, because the alternative for a social security system of a private system is to pay more money to get these patients treated for other illness created by the fact they have diabetes. So in that case, we don't think this risk is very important. But if you consider some countries, like European countries, so they don't want to pay so much for innovation because of budget constraints. So, but overall, they are still very profitable markets for Novo Nordisk, as well as for Sanofi and Eli Lilly. So finally, the main risk we see in this business, if we don't believe so much also in new entrants in the market because of the big barriers to enter we described before, should be is one of the three players, or two of the three players starts to play in a dumb way, in some way, so selling a low discount their products, but also for that we don't see a big interest for any of the three dominant players to get in that game. So because this game is not profitable, should not be profitable for any of them. But we take anyway in consideration all the risks, as we continue to monitor all the time what is developing in the market in that regard.
Now, when we would take price into consideration, now give us a sense of how do you value a business like this. Certainly, a lot of the positive attributes have not gone unnoticed by the market. When one looks optically at traditional value metrics, this company doesn't screen as cheap. But why do you think it is cheap, and how do you think about intrinsic value?
Yeah, so concerning the intrinsic value of the company, so we are coming from a value investing approach ourselves in the end, but we need to take into consideration also growth, not in a too aggressive way, but considering the growth of this market, the growth of this illness, finally, the growth of diabetes, and the potential for people to get better treated for diabetes, and also the fact that at the end, for the last phase of diabetes illness, you're obliged to get treatment through insulin. So we think we can consider a relevant growth in the years to come for the company, that we have to take into consideration. The other aspect also, we have to consider that the company has an enterprise value that is inferior to their market cap because they have cash. And also the third element is the number of shares reduced during the year. So we have to take into consideration that the earning per share will increase even further than the net results and then the cash flow. Because of this reduction, because this capital allocation of the company, investing some money in buying back the shares and reducing every year the number of shares. So we take into consideration all these elements. So we didn't consider a very huge growth rate because we are still prudent. We have a very prudent approach. We are coming from the value investing school approach. But we cannot consider growth zero for the next years, considering the economics of of this company. So considering all these elements, we think that even at recent prices, there's still a significant value for investors to be generated in the years to come.
Can you give us a sense of just kind of how you think about downside protection versus upside potential, just a range, or how do you think, realizing that intrinsic value is not a specific price, just to give us a sense of...
I agree with you, it's not a specific price, but we need anyway to modelize our valuation of the company. In that case, we consider that there is an upside of 100% from the current price. So we consider the company's value half is valued by the market, half for what is for us the intrinsic value of this company, considering their potential, the value creation dynamics they can generate in the future.
And you think that is sort of the undervaluation today, or is that sort of over time? So do you think that... I'm not sure.
No, we give an evaluation as of today. You know, our evaluation of today has to take into account some value that is created in the next few years. So this is the reason it's not just as completely, it's not based just on the earnings generated today, but since we consider that we can generate more earnings in the future, even in a prudent approach, but the approach we are applying, we consider that this company as of today has an undervaluation, significant undervaluation. So in that case, so based on our models, we invest part of the money of our portfolios, of our funds, on that. Then it becomes a very quantitative approach on that. So in order to cut out emotions when we need to buy shares, we give an evaluation, an economic quality classification of the company, and based on that, on the price we can get on the market, we can buy or not shares based on that. You know.
I'm just thinking more of sort of the, let's say, Ben Graham approach to investing, basically buying at a discount to an intrinsic value that is not necessarily growing, that is perhaps staying stable. But this investment Novo Nordisk, the intrinsic value is growing over time. So
now, in our intrinsic value, we already include part of the growth. We have a prudent approach. So the prudent part of the growth is included. Then, if they, for example, if they discover oral insulin, and in that case, if so the growth can be really higher than what is included and considered by our model today, but we don't take that into consideration. We consider a prudent approach based on the information we have today, not on the new product discovered, not on the pipeline of something extraordinary getting out of this company in the future. We don't include it on our evaluation today. Then it will be a nice to have, but we cannot include it in evaluation today.
So on that basis, so today, given all that we know and your conservative assumptions, you believe that Novo Nordisk is trading about 50% of intrinsic value.
Yeah, it's what we think. Yeah.
Well, with that...
and that is also a margin of security, as you know, as a value investor, is also a margin of security. Maybe something don't go exactly as we want. Is also a margin of security in our evaluation for the downside risk also. You know. Thank you.
With that, Marco, thank you very much for laying out in quite a lot of detail the business case for Novo Nordisk and then also the investment case for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.